Hello, all you wonderful and creative humans. I'm Pixie, and this is Pixie's Projects. If you visited before, welcome back, and if you're new, welcome in. I'm glad you're here. Today, we're going to work on a acrylic background in Macaron Sketchbook by Karla Magana. This was requested by Glitter Ghost, so we're going to go ahead and get started on this. So stay tuned. Okay, so before we get started, I'm just going to show you what I have. I have Atreza Acrylic Colors Premium in precious mint green, sorry. And I'm going to turn on my light just to be safe. It is daylight, but I have a palette to put my paint in. I'm just going to give it a quick shake. And I decided to go with a lighter color that has a little bit of metal, like metallic color to it. I'm just going to pull this up so you can see. Hopefully it's showing. I can't see my monitor. I also have water and a smaller paintbrush and a larger paintbrush. Before I get started, I just want to say that I started this with an outline. I just used this ruler, and I took the ruler and put it in and made a pencil background or a pencil border around. And you can see her hair sticks out over here, part of her body sticks out over here, and I'm okay with that. I think it adds like some visual interest if things come out of the box. But I made the box so that I'm not going into the crease or up against the edges of the pages because I'm lazy like that. So, let me just get this book open good. And we're going to go ahead and paint our background so that I can show how I get a fairly even coat on my page. Okay, so now I have a backing paper behind it just to be safe. Not that the acrylic paint's going to bleed through, but I always like to have some kind of a cushion. So I'm going to be moving my book around because it's difficult for me to leave it still. I'm going to add a little water to my small paintbrush to get the point back. I use very cheap paintbrushes for stuff like this. And I don't worry too much about it. So what I want to do first is get the tiny bits sectioned out so that I don't accidentally go over them with paint because I didn't think it through. So right here in her earring, some of it is hair and some of it is background. So I'm adding paint to those fairly thickly because I'm not going to try and come back in here a couple of times because it's a very tiny spot. Okay, so let's get that in there. And I'm not sure if I'm going to finish this page on camera or just do the background for you, depending how I feel. Also, depending if we have a lot of work going on at our house. We have a guy coming to put the siding up today and new gutters and flashing and all that stuff. And tomorrow I have a fence guy coming to put up our new fence because our old one is falling apart. So I'm not 100% sure when they're coming. So if they show up, I film right in front of my window in my studio, and they're going to be climbing my walls. Let me just turn this so I can see. Okay, so we've got a good coat there. But yeah, if they get here, I'm going to have to stop filming. So hopefully I'll at least get this video out. And then that way there's something up for the next couple of days. So then what I do after I do the tiniest bits, which all I can see really is that this is her hair. And I assume this is her hair down here too. Yeah, okay. So after I get the tiny bits covered, I go back in to the edges of the drawing, whatever's on the page. And I do like to do my backgrounds first because then I'm less worried about messing it up. If I do a background and I don't really care for it, and I've done it first, I can salvage it. But if I do the background last, I just feel like I've messed up the whole page if it didn't come out the way I wanted. And I'm sure it's some sort of like mental block or whatever, but it's real for me, so I have to work around it. So yeah, just I don't really go in one direction or another. And you'll see, because if I have to come back in for a second coat, then I will just make the lines go away by going the other way. But I'm using metallic paint because I know Glitter Ghost got some metallics, and metallics are a little bit, to me, a little bit harder to do a solid background that doesn't look streaky than using like a matte paint. For whatever reason, I get better results when I use matte. But I would think that the metallic backgrounds would be more forgiving because they have that shimmer. But for me, that's not always the case. So I hope everybody out there is doing well today and accomplishing what they want to accomplish. I don't have a lot to talk about. You've got my big news, like I said, new siding and a new fence. We don't have a whole heck of a lot more going on. We opted out of vacation this year because we were doing housework instead. So it's summer at home. Okay, so I think you get the idea of what I'm attempting to accomplish here. Like I said, we're just going around the border of the drawing. And I'll do a little bit more in real time. And then I'm going to go ahead and just speed up finishing the border. This is where it gets a little hairy because there's just a little spot there. And you can still see my pencil lines. I'm not worried about it. Worst case scenario is I will go back in with a ruler and a black Pitt pen and cover over the pencil lines, just to give it a solid edge. Or I could even do it with like a gold jelly roll. Just put a line all the way around it. That'll look cute. Yeah, turning my book again. I really hope you're in frame for this. But if you have like a glob, like if you can see this, I hope. Like there's a fairly good bit of paint going on there. I just pull it around until it's broken down a little bit. I'm adding a little more water to my brush because the paint is thick. And then I'm just going back in. And then following this line up. And I switch off between doing this straight edge and around her body because I get bored of going straight up and down. And then sometimes I don't like to do all the curves, so I just alternate as I feel like it. But what we're creating is like safe areas to just not worry too much about messing up. We can just color in here really easy. So we'll finish out this one section. I got a little over the line, and even that's not a big deal. it's not perfection, you know, it's a fun project. It's not supposed to be perfect. Things rarely are. So I'm turning it around. I'm taking the paint that's, again, a little bit too thick and pulling it in. And now we're finishing off this curl of her hair. We just want to get the whole outline. Okay, so that is what we're going to do for the rest of the page. We're going to do it all through up here and on here. So we'll come back. Oh, and we have these parts in here. I'll do those in real time, and then we'll come back out and speed it up and come back when we're done. And I'll show you how to color them in and make sure you've got even coverage. And I just left that dot right there between her fingers because I knew I had too much paint on my brush to go in there and do that very small spot. So, and I'll do it again right here. And I'll come back and spread that out once I get some paint off my brush. I have a very small detail brush, but looking at this page, I didn't feel like I really needed it. This might be one of the only spots. So this one's small enough where I can get in there. All right, there we go. And I think that's the last tiny spot we have. Just want to make sure I get into all the little nooks and crannies. Okay, so I know this is part of her body here, so that's not one of our problems. Yeah, I'm going to speed it up and just continue the outline all around here and around the rest of her body. And I'll be back to talk to you in a moment. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the entire outside edges of her body and the outside edges of our frame that we've built in, all set and ready to go. So now I have a larger brush, and I know it went really fast as I was doing the outline, so you may not have seen. Wet your brush anytime you feel like the paint is dragging. And also, if your paint starts to dry out a little bit, you can add some water to that. But like, wash your brush if it gets too full of paint and it just gets messy. But just use your best judgment. It's not science. There's nothing, you know, if it gets to a point where it's messy with the brush has too much on it, you can't get into the tiny spots. So you just clean your brush. So I have a paper towel here as well, and I just wipe it off so I don't have too much water. And now you can see we're coming in and we're doing the blocks that we've left open to just paint freely. And I am just going in one motion down the image, and that will probably change for each part, to be honest, because I have trouble reaching and working in one direction, like at the top and stuff. So right now I'm just cutting out the corner of that earring and making sure I had enough paint up there, because right now it looks like I'm not going to need a second coat. So if there's like a little spot that's slightly light, I'm going to try and get it right away, you know, so I don't have to do a second one, because if you can get away without it, I highly recommend it. The less work, the better is how I kind of feel about it. And I'm sure there's someone who knows how to do this and make it look perfect. I'm okay with there being a little bit of line showing. Sometimes I think it adds texture. Other times I think I'm just telling myself that because I'm lazy. But it works. And this is where you can kind of load up your brush a little bit and push it around. You know, just be careful of your edges where you paint it in to keep your image safe. You want to maintain that. But like, as you can see, if you cut out all your edges, you know, outline her, outline the frame, it's a lot easier to come back in and just not go crazy with the paint, but, you know, easily finish it off. So we've got 2 parts done now. We've got a third part at the top. And right now, I mean, we've got to wait for it to dry, but I believe I don't really need a second coat. I do see a spot right there that I want to look better. So, and you can do that as you go, and especially when you're not using like a shimmering paint, you'll be able to see easier if you have like thin spots. Like when I do an all black background, which I do exactly like this. There's nothing, you know, it's not, this is metallic paint. I actually chose it because it was metallic and because it was light. It would be easier for me to mess it up. So I thought that would be the best place to show it, because if I mess up, I can show how I fix it. And by mess up, I just mean leave streaks, leave blank spots, leave thin spots. Those are the kind of things I have to go back and fix after it dries. And we will let this dry and come back to it and see if there's anything at all that we feel like needed some help. So, Glitter Ghost, I hope you're watching. And if you are, I hope it's helpful. I don't feel like I really do anything too exciting about it, but if it helps, I'm glad. And again, the paintbrushes I use are cheap and old, and you know, I don't feel like I need really expensive things to do any kind of good job on this. So I keep, these are like the ones on their last leg. They were fine for a while, now they're about to be trash. And I will use them for acrylics, for backgrounds until they're dead. And then they become trash. But they last in this form for a while. I've got to say, this new setup, I don't know, I don't remember what video I talked about it in, but I had gotten my childhood desk. My youngest, or my middle child, took it when they moved out, which was fine. I mean, I gave it to them, but they don't need it anymore, so they sent it home. And I set it up in front of my window in my studio and set up my camera and my ring lights and everything as like a dedicated just for filming space. And it's right in front of my window in the studio. So I'm having a hard time because I'm looking out the window more than I'm paying attention to what I'm doing. There's absolutely nothing to see out there either. That's the worst part. Nothing's happening, you know. But here I am, because shiny, there's a window. Let me go look at it. Okay, so we've got our first layer on. And like as I'm going, you'll see me touching up things. And it's just because I can see like a thinner layer there. So if I can see it before it's even dry, I'll just try and hit it really quick. But that's what we've done. So we're just going to take a break for a minute and see. You know, for you, it'll be a second. For me, it'll be as long as it takes for it to dry. And then we'll come back and do any touch-ups we might need to do. So we're all dry, and we're back. And I think it looks pretty good for the first layer. You can see... Oops, I'm trying to pull this up. You can see if you look like up against her skin or up against the edges, that the lines are thicker than they are where we had to go in and fill in. So now we're just going to go back and add another layer so that I'm trying to make sure we can see these. I don't know if you can, but at the top there are streaks going up and down because that's the direction we went in. So we're going to add another layer and we're going to go sideways, and that will cover up those streaks, and we will not have more because then we'll have a thick enough layer. Like you can specifically see all around here, it needs just a little bit of help. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, but I'll speed it up again so that it's very quick and we'll get to a finished product soon. Okay, so we've done our second layer. And from what I can see, I don't have any thin spots, and I don't have any extreme lines in my coloring. So there we go. That is how to do an acrylic background very quickly and easily, as easily as you can do an acrylic background. This will dry, and I will finish up this picture. And I'm doing this, it's the end of July, so it'll either be in my July finished pages or my August finished pages. You'll be able to see the entire thing colored. Thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this. And until next time, friends, have a very colorful day.